Good morning, everybody. Are you guys good? I klink lekker nie. Are you guys good? Only these people on this side. Are you guys good? Welcome to the very first Meraki Property Roadshow. I'm Marco Jacobs. I'm from, almost falling over, I'm from Radio CCFM. Good to be in your company this morning. And as I was told, I'm part of the Meraki family. And I'm good to be here. Good to see you guys here. And we're going to have an awesome time. And if you don't have an awesome time, that's going to be your fault, eh? But you guys look good. And I've got some things to give away as well because I like it. Whoa, excellent. I didn't say what yet, eh? But I'm waiting for Carmen to strike it rich because I want, can I have this one? Okay. Because I want that Oprah moment, man. Because I want to say, look under your seat. Because you're getting a prize and you get, money for Dachi. We're going to be giving some prizes away, but I'm here to introduce the main lady here for today. And what a wonderful privilege it is for me to have this lady on my show every second Tuesday now. And at CCFM, it's wonderful that we can partner with organizations and businesses. And especially on my show, the big thing for me is to really uplift businesses. But in our relationship, it's become more than a business. I think the wonderful part is, and maybe you can hear from Carmen later and Muhsina, is that we have a lot of fun. And it transcends radio host and guest in the studio. And we've come to a point where I think their business becomes my business as well. And I think it's good that we can showcase what we have in our communities. And we have excellence amongst us. We have Carmen as the visionary and the main person at Meraki. You can give her a hand. And then also you'll hear from Muhsina Ismail. In actual fact, I've got to put it, no, wait, hold your applause yet. I got to do it like this. On my show, I said that is my favorite realtor, Carmen Gamieldien. You can give her a hand now. And then I get to say my favorite attorney, Muhsina Ismail of MI Attorneys. Julle is nogal kwaai hoor, julle klap lekker hande. But I'm going to give something away in a moment, but where's Pastor Harris? He's here. Who's Pastor Mark? Okay, he's around. I see he's a busy guy. But also we want to say thank you to Pastor Mark for opening up this venue. And I want to call him up. Come here, sir. I think come here. You can give him another hand while he come up. So what a great man of God. And firstly, thank you for opening up this venue. And then also thank you for your heart for the people. Thank you for what you're doing in this community. And you know, in an age, I'm going to ask you to do something in a minute. In an age where, and I'm trying to be respectful to everybody that's gathered here, but I think it's always proper to thank God, to thank Him in all circumstances. And I want you, this church is called Blessed Hope. And I think as the man of God, the set man here, don't you just want to bless this gathering and then we can continue with it?
Let us pray. It is to you that we give praise and glory and honor, for you have been good to us. And we thank you for your goodness, and we thank you for your mercy, your grace, your kindness, and your tenderness towards us. We commit this event to you this morning, and we pray all who will attend and those who will stream it, that they will be blessed this morning. And whatever information they receive this morning, they will be able to apply it to their circumstances. We thank you for those who will participate. We pray that you'll bless them, and we pray that you'll bless their businesses as well. We ask this in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen. And now I feel at peace. I don't know about you. I feel we can continue. But I need to call up this fantastic lady. And I think we're going to start to stay on time here. And she's the reason why we're here. I remember we was talking on the show and they said, let's take this show on the road. And so you guys are blessed to be the first ones to have this. Your hands and mine for Carmen Gamieldien. Also, the two of us, no? Ons is af van die suiker af van die brood af. En kyk hoe lyk ons nou. Doesn't she look beautiful? As julle nie hande klap nie, as julle jaloes. So, before she goes on and to talk to you guys, I want to ask you just something. How do you feel about all of this? Are you excited? Are you happy?
Excited. We've been talking about this since late last year on radio, and we were saying, let's do it. But to see this day finally happen, wow, amazing. So thank you, everybody, for supporting. I also just want to say thank you to all the businesses that have come on board and the exhibitors that are here today. So you will meet Muhsina Ishmael, I can't say partner in crime, but we have been doing business since Meraki started, and she's going to be one of the keynote speakers today. And then I want to say thank you to Chantal Roberts, our other speaker. Chantal and I met at a networking event, and we immediately clicked, only to realize afterwards that she's my husband's cousin. And we found that out on Facebook, hey? And then I want to thank Blessed Hope for making this venue available. We've also got the Grief and Support Center that is here on exhibit today. So please go around to the tables, meet the exhibitors, see the services they have to offer. Then we've got Reynard's Strength in Council Services. Also right there next to Blessed Hope. And then we've got Dreams Foundation. So all these are Dreams Foundation, Reynard's Strength in Council Services, and Blessed Hope Grief and Support Center. They are there to offer the other side of dealing with the deceased estate, the emotional side, dealing with grief, dealing with loss. So please go and speak with them. Lizelle Skaltz is also the author of Finding Me, Grieving You, and her books are available there at the back. She's also got some journals available. And then we've got CCFM, of course, our biggest support.
Hulle is jaloes. They didn't clap hands. Hulle is jaloes.
And yeah, so just quickly some protocol. We've got the ladies' bathrooms here in the foyer. The men's bathrooms are there in the back, and this is a no smoking premises, so all smoking, if needed, outside the gates and premises. And I think that is it from me. No.
It's not it. It's not it. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm
We
here.
got some prizes.
So I wanted to give something away. Is it okay?
Sure.
Now,
Everybody loves a good prize.
I don't know how we're going to do this. I think there's a saying that says, the early bird catches the worm. Somebody's got to be early here and quick on the draw.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yes.
But you got to give it away, hey?
Okay. Sure.
And I had a lively audience over here. Those people over there, them. Wacht. Julle. As julle net so, as julle... Carmen, we got a problem here because ek wil iets weggee, man. So, I'm not going to look now, you look. You look, I'm going to do this. Weet nou, daai gesê, wys na my toe, ek wys niks, ek gaan nie kykie. I'm going to turn my backs on you. Okay, Carmen, first hand up wins that prize. First hand up.
No, I can't. Too many hands.
Okay, second try. You must look now.
Okay. I don't know.
First hand up. Your choice. Okay, third time.
That's not gonna work.
Okay, it's gonna work. Waar gaan ek vir Mursina vra?
Okay, Mursina, let the lawyer
Mursina,
look, let the lawyer
dis die
look.
lawyer.
Yeah, she's the lawyer.
Kyk hoe daar sy kan
We're
vandag
messing with her.
vandag kan sy die judge wees. Okay. Okay. Oh Lord Jesus. Die Here kom in die môre. First stand up. Did you see? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Do eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Eeny,
No,
meeny, miny, mo. Or must I do it?
you do it.
Okay,
you
I'm gonna do it.
I will just give the prize.
First stand up. This lady over here. You most don't want to.
Okay, so this prize is from Dreams Foundation. Thank you, Dreams Foundation.
Okay, okay. You know what? I see that some of you feel a little bit out now. How come he went there? Ek hou julle dop, ek weet van julle. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question then, if you can answer the question. And if you're not tuned in, it's your problem. It's your fault. It's your fault. As hulle nie ingetune is op my show nie. Sorry vir julle. What is the name of my afternoon show, Mondays to Fridays? What did you say, ma'am?
Come closer, come closer. Yes. Lunchtime with Marco.
We'll accept. But
Lunchtime with
julle
Marco.
luister mos nie vir my nie. Wie, julle weet? Julle kan stream, julle lieg. So well done to you. So there will be another opportunity for a few of you a little bit later, but well done to you and congratulations.
This is from Meraki Property Solutions.
What, ma'am, what is your name? Lemies, hulle is jaloes. Hulle het die hande geklap vir jou nie. Klap hande vir asseblief. Ja? Okay. Listen, this is my time almost done with you guys. So I gotta get Mursina here, right?
Go for it.
Okay, so let's quickly do this. If you were tuned into my show, ladies and gentlemen, ek kyk julle met julle attitude hier so. Because you're not tuned into my show, you wouldn't know. But now tune in from now on a Tuesday, every second Tuesday when we have Carmen and sometimes we have Mursina on there as well. And I call her my favorite attorney because she's fantastic. And if you want to know about deceased estates, and some of us, die Here weet, we've gone through that, and it's not always the most easiest of transitions when a loved one has passed. And a lot of us, we're uninformed about what happens when somebody's deceased and what happens to the estate. This morning, you're in for a treat. I believe that Mursina will really put you in the know in regards to all of that. And ek dink ons mense, when I say ons mense, ek mag so sê, we need to be more informed about what happens, not just in this life, but what happens in the afterlife. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, and as hulle nie hande klap, ek hou julle dop. Your hands and mine for the incredible Mursina Ishmael of MI Attorneys. Ek hou julle dop. Was daai goed?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you very much. Thank you.
And then just before we hand over to Mursina, we've got a special guest here today, Natasha Booth, if you just want to stand. She's a Mrs. South Africa semi-finalist, and she's come to support the event today. So she will be around later. We've got a photo little thingy, so make opportunity after the session.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for setting time aside on a weekend. I know it's difficult. I know I struggled to wake up this morning. So I just want to say thank you for setting the time aside to listen to what I have to say about deceased estates. We often, wherever I go, whether it's on the radio, whether it's consulting with people who are selling their properties, a question often comes up about deceased estates. And when we have consultations, we normally note that there's quite a bit of misinformation or lack of information about what needs to happen when a loved one passes away or what steps you need to take in order to get your executor appointed, or if a property is in a deceased estate and there's life policies, and a surviving spouse or a family member or a loved one needs to access a life policy, what steps need to get taken in order for you to achieve that purpose, right? So today I'm going to take you through the process of what needs to happen from the moment of death up until the point of letters of executorship, or sometimes letters of authority, which apply in certain circumstances, and I will take you through that as well. And then I will open the floor for questions, because I know a lot of us learn when people are asking questions and we bounce off each other's questions. And I think that will just make for an interesting consultation with an attorney as to what's actually on your mind. Or if some of you are currently going through this process, you can obviously ask me some questions to clarify as well. Okay. I'm not sure if the slides are up, Carmen. All right. So when a loved one passes away, obviously there's a number of people that are involved. It's either your undertaker that will be involved or your medical practitioner, depending on where the person obviously passed away. Once the person has passed away, normally a death notice will be issued by either the undertaker or the medical practitioner. It looks like a little Home Affairs form. It has a government logo on it, and it will normally contain information as to the deceased, the person who is declaring the deceased passed on, and then also an interested or family member's details of the person who was involved or was present at the time of death of the deceased, right? Once you've gotten that form from the undertaker or from the medical practitioner, you can then go to Home Affairs and you can complete Home Affairs' forms in order to obtain the death certificate. Home Affairs has a particular form that you need to fill out and a prescribed fee that you pay in order to get the death certificate issued, right? Once you've got the death certificate issued, now is the time for you guys to ask the important questions. So normally family members, obviously they go through the grieving process and they allow for that grieving process to finish before they tackle the question. Some family members don't do that. They immediately want to know what's going to happen with Ma or Pa's estate, right? Who's going to inherit? And unfortunately, it's a very ugly truth that we as attorneys, we have to sit in these consultations where people absolutely rip each other apart about what is in an estate, right? And it's the most heart-wrenching thing that yesterday Ma or Pa, Mommy and Daddy passed away, and today those kids are in my office wanting to know who's inheriting what, or they're fighting about my sister's living in the house and she's been living with Mommy for the last 10 years and she's not paying anything. And we see that on a daily basis. And people apologize to me, but as an attorney, it's my role to look at it objectively and to give you the best advice that I can. And sometimes it's not exactly what you want to hear, right? But we have to do it, okay? And it's an ugly truth. It happens all of the time. And people fight over inheritance. So what I'm going to do is I'm giving you guys the keys to equip you to make away with that arguments, right? So what will happen is once your mourning period is completed, or whenever you see fit now to tackle the question, the first thing you'll now do is to find out whether the deceased had a will. Okay, that is the most important part, and that's the starting point. Did the deceased have a will? Okay. Some of the kids may know, some of the kids may not know. Maybe they've kept a will in the safe. Maybe you've taken your mom or your dad or Ma and Pa to go see an attorney to draw up their will shortly before their passing. You would know. Sometimes you might not know. And more often than not, it's always the banks that might sit with a will, right? Because the banks normally, once they sign you up as a client, they will ask whether the person needs assistance with a deceased estate, and that's a way for banks to make money, right? As it's not a nice thing to say, but it is. So what banks normally do is they will offer you a will, they'll offer to draw up your will, but you don't know that you're appointing the bank as your executor of your estate. They're not going to explain the terms and conditions to you. They just want to make business for the bank. So you're actually appointing the bank as your executor of the estate. And I cannot emphasize how difficult you are making it for your loved ones after your passing. The bank has 1 million of clients. They've got 1 million deceased estates that they're administering. After the point it reaches the call center where you say, my mom and my dad or my mom has passed away, I need assistance. Once that process is done, your file goes into the abyss. There will be no communication. I've got a client that I took on now where the deceased estate is 2 years old. It's a 2-year-old estate, and the client came to me, she asked me, can we get the bank to resign as executor? And the bank told me, no, they've worked on the matter, they're not going to resign. But the estate's 2 years old, so what did you do in that 2 years? Right? So please be careful when you sign a will. Chances are that if a loved one has passed away, the first point of call you need to make is to check with the banks if they've got a will. It will normally be your major banks like Standard Bank, Nedbank, often the case. ABSA will also do some wills as well. I don't think Capitec has that offering, but mainly your 5 big banks, they will be offering that service. So that's your first point of call, okay? If there is no will and the family agrees that they can't find a will, then the law determines how that estate must get wound up. The law tells us who the heirs are. The law tells us what the shares that those heirs are inheriting are. And the law also gives us the process that we need to follow in order to get the letters of executorship issued. Okay, I will take you through what that executorship means and all of those things. Okay. Then another thing that you guys need to also take into account is whether there are any minor children involved. Okay? If someone has passed away and they've got minor children and there is no will, the estate basically goes to the guardian fund. Okay? So what happens is if someone has passed away and they've got no spouse and they've maybe a single parent and they've got a minor child, which is someone under the age of 18, and they don't have a will, the assets go to the Guardians Fund, which is a government-administrated trust. And we know what happens when your money goes to the government, right? Right. So what happens is, and in that case, if there is someone who is looking after that child after your passing, they need to write motivational letters each month to request allowances for that child's care. So that means whether it's clothing, whether it's food, whether it's school fees, they need to motivate why they need that money, and they need to provide invoices as to why that money needs to be provided and how much each month they need. Can you imagine the burden on someone to have to write to a government administration, and you know how long they take with everything, and you have to care for this. It's always important that you have a will firstly, and that when you do have any minor children, because we don't know when we're going to pass. I had a baby now and you don't even know when your passing is going to be, but it's always good to have a will in place. And in your will, you need to appoint a legal guardian for your child. If you're not married, you need to appoint the grandparent, like the aunt or the uncle, whoever the case may be. And you also need to make provision for what needs to happen with your estate. So if you've got a property, the property can go into the minor's name. I'm not sure if many of you know, but you can register a property onto the name of someone who is under the age of 18. So you can say, my property needs to go to my children. Whether or not they're 18, we can register the property into their name. You can do that. You can say that the money that is in that estate needs to go into a trust fund. And the trust fund will pay each month for the maintenance and the upbringing of the child. And at least you can appoint someone who you trust, right, to administer the money for that estate. Okay, so once someone has passed away, you will then check if there's a will. End up an estate. And if they are minor children, those are the key points you need to take in. Is there a trust in a will? Is there a will if there's a minor child involved? Also, and there is no will, the Master of the High Court will compel a professional to be the executor of the estate. and the parent has passed away and there is no will, or you need to appoint a financial services provider, or you need to appoint an accountant. Anyone in a professional capacity will be able to stand in as executor. And the difference with that is that we then need to get an insurance document, which we call a bond of security document. And that is normally to the value of the estate. So let's say there's a property in the estate and the parent has passed away, and there's minor children involved, and you come to me now and you say, look, here's a minor child involved. The master has said we need to get a executor and I need to get insurance to the value of the estate. If the estate's R1 million or 500,000 Rand, to say that if the estate gets maladministered, so let's say, for example, we miscalculate something and money goes missing. Not that it ever does and not that it ever will. But let's say, for example, money goes missing, or I've done a bad job at winding up the estate, then my insurance will cover if there's a loss. That's the difference. Whereas if you appoint any family member, there is no protection for that child if money goes missing. So that's why they force us as professionals, if there are children under the age of 18 and there is no will, they will actually turn you away. If you go to the master's office, they'll ask you, what's in the estate? How much is the estate? And you say, the huis is maar nou 500,000 Rand. They'll say, sorry ma'am, we can't assist you. You need to go get an attorney. And that's when you phone me. Okay, because then I will then step in and I will assist you. Even if there's no minor children involved, they'll still turn you away. Okay, and then we will have to get a bond of security insurance document to make sure that the children are covered, because children are important, it's their future. If someone takes money from the estate, you're basically taking their future. If the parents have left them R1 million policy, and that policy pays out to that child and it just disappears into thin air, you're affecting their future. And in terms of the Children's Act, the rights of a child is of paramount importance, meaning that it takes precedence over everything else. Okay, so that's why it's important. If there's a minor child, then they'll tell you to approach a professional. Okay. When someone has passed away, the master basically divides estates into two. Okay, and that is based on the value of the estate. If an estate is less than 250,000 Rand, meaning that you've got a property and maybe it's under 250,000 Rand, then it doesn't need to go through the whole estate process. The whole estate process can take 6 months to a year to finish. Okay? But if it's under 250,000 Rand, you don't need to go through that whole estate process. You only need to get what we call a letter of authority. Okay? So the letter of authority is basically a document. We fill out documents to the master and we tell the master, based on our calc under 250,000 Rand, and there's a trusted family member who we want to appoint, or there's an heir to the estate who we need to appoint as the representative of that estate. Okay? Once they've examined all the application documents at the master's office, they will then say, okay, we are satisfied, and they will issue you with what we call a letter of authority. It has a nice government logo on it, and it says there that this particular person is authorized to act on behalf of the estate. And if there is a property in that estate, you are then authorized to transfer that property to the heirs of that estate. Okay. So that is if an estate is under 250,000 Rand, you don't need to follow the entire estate process. If an estate is over 250,000 Rand, even if you go to the master's office with a will and you are the executor in that will, they will still turn you away. They will tell you that you need to consult a professional. Okay, so if it goes over 250,000 Rand, you need to get a professional involved, whether it's an attorney, whether it's an accountant, or whether it's a financial services provider. You'll need to get someone involved to wind up that estate, because now full estate process, which is a six month to 1 year process, depending on how big the estate is, how many children are involved in the estate, or what the terms of the will are that we need to enforce in terms of that estate. Okay. Then also, I know I've thrown a couple of terms at you guys. I've said executor, I've said representative. So an executor is someone who you appoint either in terms of your will to oversee an estate comes into being, right? Because that person now has passed away. There's no way they can control any of the assets any longer. So they appoint someone on their behalf to exercise their wishes in terms of the will, or if there is no will, the law, they basically have to comply with the obligations or what they're supposed to do in terms of the law, right? So that is an executor. Normally, I always recommend when my clients come see me to do a will and they choose the executor, that you'd rather check with that person if they want to be the executor. Because a lot of the time we get wills, so often it is the case that an elderly couple will come see me, right? They'll ask to do their will. Then it will be that the husband or the wife choose each other to be the executor. But if you're elderly, you don't want to go stand in a queue at the master's office. You don't want to have to deal with 1,001 emails from an attorney telling you what needs to be done. And then often it is the case I have to ask that surviving spouse, the person who's alive, that they need to step down and that they need to appoint or our office as the executor so that we can wind up the estate. Because it is a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's an overwhelming process. You've just lost your spouse that you've spent years with, and you now need to deal with an estate. Right? Your will, it's always a good idea if you're going to choose your son or your daughter, which is often the case, or a sister or a brother, rather speak to them before you draft the will and say, look, I'm going to appoint you as the executor. Are you okay with that? They'll normally ask what they need to do. You'll just say that they need to wind up the estate for you once you pass away. And they need to make sure that everybody gets what they should be getting in terms of your will. Or if there is no will, you wouldn't be having this conversation. But if you're going to have a will, you must check in with whoever you're appointing as your executor. And once your executor says it's fine, and then you can proceed to draw up the will. Because it's a very cumbersome position. That person can be taken to court, they can be sued on behalf of your estate. Right? So they can stand to lose their personal assets if you've appointed them as an executor and they don't know what they're doing and they're winding up your estate. Right? They can be sued. So you want to make sure that that person is protected. And normally what I recommend to my clients are, if you're going to appoint as someone an executor, rather let us be the administrator of your estate so that we can be there to guide the executor when they need to do what needs to be done to get your estate wound up. So what the administrator will do is, we will then assist the executor in completing your entire estate. We will do all the work, they will just exercise and they will sign off on any decision that needs to be made in terms of your will. So we will administer the estate. I'm sure you've heard that a lot. Administrators of deceased estates, that's what it means. It means we do all of the admin work and the executor can then just exercise the signing power. Okay. Then also, when you come to a consultation with me, and let's say you've gone to now the estate's over 250, you need to go see an attorney. I'm going to need the following documents from you, right? I'm going to need a death certificate of the deceased who has passed away. I'm going to need a list of all of the property owned by the deceased. So if you know that the deceased had owned a house, and I'm going to probably ask you for a copy of the rates bill because I need to know what the value of that estate is. If you knew that the deceased had any cash in the bank, so let's say you're married in community of property, you've been saving or you have a savings account and your loved one or your spouse has passed away, I'm going to need to know how much cash you have in the bank because that is going to add up to the estate value that we're going to have to report to the master. Any policies that you might have, so if one is a government employee, or whether they're not, or they had an outsurance life policy, or whatever other policies they might have had, Liberty Life, you need to find those documents and you need to bring them with you because then we will make contact with those companies. We'll advise them that the person under the policy has passed away, and we will follow then the process of getting you paid out. Sometimes your spouse in your policy has nominated you as a beneficiary to that policy, which means that all that money bypasses the estate and it just gets paid to you, which is fabulous because that's tax-free money. Okay, so it bypasses the estate. You don't need to pay estate duty. It just gets paid to the beneficiary. Okay, but we can't know that unless you know. So when you go home today, you need to have a discussion about what is in your estate. You need to give thought to who's going to handle your estate matters or your affairs once you've passed away. And you're going to need to tell that person that you want to maybe appoint them as an executor, and you're going to need to start putting your things in order. I normally recommend that my clients get a little ring binder, and then they put all their documents, all the policy documents, stuff. Okay, just to make it easier and to also save time. A lot of the time, our people are saying, you know, at that process, lose the documents, then we have to resubmit the documents to the master. Everything in a nice little folder. We don't know when we're going to pass. I might walk out of here. That's the last time you see me. Right? So we can't take advantage of our youth, regardless of what age. Put your things in a nice little file. Tell the person, look, I'm intending to appoint you as my executor, but this is where you can find my stuff. My will is here. My bank statements are in here. My policy documents are in here. My ID is here. And then at least they know what they need to do when they come see an attorney. Okay. On top of that, I'm also going to need your marriage certificate. So if you were married or the deceased was married, some of my elderly clients still have those very old marriage certificates that's in the ID documents. That is absolutely fine. You can bring that with as well. Sometimes they didn't maybe go get it updated at Home Affairs. That's okay, as long as there's something to show that they were actually married. Okay. Then also I'm going to need IDs or documents of any alive or passed or death certificates of children who have passed away. For example, you pass away and your child has maybe passed away before you. If they've got children, the law says that their children must inherit. Okay? So even if children have passed away, or you know that your dad has maybe passed away or your mom has passed away and your brother passed away before your dad passed away, you know that your brother's child, your brother, right? So it will go down the line of succession. Okay, so right, I'm saying this because it's a real thing. I mean, people come to me, they say, nee, ek het niks broers en susters nie. Daar kom die broer en suster uit. 2 weke later. No appointment at my office. Sorry, I'm the brother to this estate. I'm not lying. I've had that. Then they come attack us in the office. My ma het gesê, ek moet die huis kry. Daar's nie net een wil nie, daar's 3 wills. Ek gaan jou report na die Law Society toe. Guys, then it's not me. Nee, asseblief. Because what's going to happen is, let's say your parents had children before they married your dad or your mom. Okay? And you've got stepbrothers or sisters. What the law does is they look at the line of succession of that person. So I don't care as julle nie met julle stief broers en susters praat nie. But if they are your stepbrothers and your sisters and they are the children of the deceased, they need to be declared. Even if you don't want to talk to them, you can give me the number and I will talk to them. Say that there isn't when there is, because you're just lengthening the process and you're making things harder on everyone else, right? So rather just be honest, but then the person come to me, they're absolutely fine. I've had that where I've consulted with the client. The person told me at the consultation, no, we don't talk to each other. He's making everyone's life difficult or whatever. I phoned that man said, no, I'm not making anyone's life difficult. I just don't want a family member to be the executor because there wasn't a will. So he just said, I don't want a family member, I want an attorney. Problem solved, right? Because you're talking to the attorney, we will get the necessary insurance in place and we will stand as executor as long as we can just get the job done, right? So you might have your quabbles, but rather come speak to me and don't withhold anything from me because it's gonna bite you at the end of the day. Okay? So rather just be honest. And if there is a surviving spouse, then I need the documents of the surviving spouse as well. So proof of address for the surviving spouse. If your husband or your wife has passed away and you come see me, I'll need your proof of address as well. And I'm also going to need a copy of your ID as well. Once I have those documents from you, I will normally ask you to fill out the estate documents while you're there. It's a couple of forms that we submit to the master. It's a couple of affidavits that tell us who the children of the deceased are. And we will normally complete those documents for you. Whoever the nominated executor is in terms of the will, or if there is no will and all of the children say, no, we want our Buddha to stand as the executor, or we want the sister to stand as the executor, that person will sign off on all the documents for me. Okay? So we do it at one consultation, so you don't need to go back and forth the whole time. Okay? Then also, once the documents are signed and completed, we then send that documents off to the Master of the High Court. Okay? The Master of the High Court, if you haven't heard about them, they are a government-administrated institution, and they have been charged with overseeing the administration of all of the estates. They are also the government administration that deal with trusts. So if you've set up a trust or you're going to set up a trust, then also they are the body to do that. I also just want to put in a little side note here that if you come see me and you say to me, Mami het gesê die huis moet 'n familiehuis bly. That is not a thing. Okay, so if mommy didn't make a will or daddy didn't make a will and daddy het vir jou gesê die huis moet in die familie bly, it's not a thing, my people. Unfortunately, if there's no will and he didn't put it in writing, there's nothing I can do. If 52% of the heirs want to sell that property because they all may be set in life, they don't still want to deal with the house, and 50% of them sign, and one of you or half of you come up and say, "My mom het gesê die huis moet 'n familiehuis bly, and there's one sister living in that house." There's nothing I can do. If the 50 say it must get sold, it must get sold. If 60% say it must get sold, we move with the majority and it gets sold. It's not a thing, guys. So when you're drafting your will, you can't also just put it in your will to say, this house must stay a family house. Who's going to enforce that? Who's going to make sure that that house is a family house? What if all your family pass away? What must happen to the house now? Right? When you want to do that, you must make a trust. And we can do that for you in your will. Okay? So if you say, ek wil hê my huis moet 'n familiehuis bly, my kinders moet hierdie huis verkoopie, often I get elderly clients who say that they've worked their whole life for that house to pay that house off. And they don't want it to get sold. They say, I want this house to stay with my children mustn't sell it, they can't take a bond on it. You know, the people will tell you that. If you're going to do that, ma'am or sir, you must create a will, and in the will we will create a trust, and we will put that property into the trust on your passing. Make sense? And then the trustees who you've appointed will make sure that that trust gets administered. They can then appoint new trustees if they want to step away. But the trust will survive into forever. Okay? But if you say to your children on your deathbed, familiehuis, or you tell one child that moet 'n familiehuis bly, it's not a thing. Hulle gaan baklei. They're going to fight. Nee, maar jy bly in die huis en free, so betaal die rentie. Ons is nou liable vir die waterbill. This is what I see. This is what I see, I promise you. And then there's always that one heir that's staying in that house, doesn't want to move out. And then the 50% gets ruled on to say it must get sold. Now that heir doesn't want to move out, you're going to sit with an eviction, my people. I'm telling you, I promise you. Then we still have to come up with eviction costs as well. Right, so please just make it easier on your loved ones when you draw up your will. Go see a professional. Don't go into CNA and buy a will. Please, los die hotes goede af. Don't buy a will. People go into CNA, koop hulle 'n will en sê hotes deed of sale, hotes last will and testament. Moet nie die goede koop nie. It's bad. It is very bad because hier kry ek die wil, dan sê die wil, it must stay a family house. Wat beteken dit? Beteken niks, because that client went to go, someone went to go say, nee, mami, hulle verkoop wills, hy sê, en hy moenie jou tyd wys op 'n lawyer nie. Do wills for free. We do wills for free. There's also Wills Week in September where we dedicate our hours to doing wills. So come use my knowledge. I'm here to benefit you. So you need to come see me if you want to do a will. Come see me. We don't charge. It takes 30 minutes of your time, even less than 30 minutes if you know what you want and you don't need legal advice. Probably maximum up to an hour. I can render for free and you can come sit and you can come talk to me about your will, your estate, and we'll plan it out. There's Miss Chantal also. She also does wills and deceased estates. So speak to her. If you don't want to speak to me, speak to her. Right? But just so that someone can give you the proper legal advice on how to set out your will. If you've got minor children involved, then we also need to fill out documents for the guardians fund as well. So let's say you didn't have a will and you've got a life policy and whatever the case may be, then we also need to submit documents to the guardians fund to say someone has passed away, they don't have a will, and your government, they left you R1 million. Because that's what happens. You left the government R1 million life policy that your children must now circle to get money from. So you need to do that, and you need to appoint a legal guardian for your children. If you don't have a legal guardian, then we need to get a court order to appoint a legal guardian. And when you talk about court order, you talk about attorney's fees, you talk about advocate's fees. And who's going to pay that? Okay? You must consider those things. So Chantal will tell you more about estate planning and how you can cater for those costs as well. And then also once we've collected all of those documents, you tell me who's in the estate, if there's a will, if there's no will, we then submit that back to the master. And the master will then take their time to examine because they work for government, they're overpaid and overworked, and they will take 6 months to look at a few pages and then to issue us with a letter of executorship. Okay, a letter of executorship is a simple letter. It just says that the person appointed in terms of the will, or if there is no will and there's just heirs involved who've nominated either their brother or their sister to be the executor, that person can now exercise the rights of the deceased in terms of the law. So they then make the decision on whether the property is going to get sold. They then make the decision on where the money is going to go, or they then also exercise the signing power on behalf of that estate. So if the will, for example, says the property must get sold, we then need to wait for the letters of executorship to be issued, and then we can put that property on the market, and then you'll contact Meraki to do that for you. Okay? So once that letters of executorship has been issued, then we can start on the estate work. So just getting that one piece of paper will take 6 weeks to 6 months to get. And when you go to the master's office, hulle is ook so, jammer om te sê, hulle is ook so vertraag en gevrek. Right? You go there, the people don't want to help you. You stand in a long queue from 6 o'clock like a day hospital. The attorneys will go there and they'll tell the attorneys, no, we can't see you on a Friday. Why? As gaan almal dan maar sit toe. I don't understand. Why can't you see me on a Friday? Or we don't see people on a Wednesday. That's how it goes. Right? So I always tell my clients, when you embark on this process, it's going to be a long journey. Right? It's going to be a difficult journey. And yes, I'm here. You're gonna swear at me. You're going to shout at me. You're going to tell me I'm taking long. I'm wasting your time. You're going to go at me. I promise you. But it is only so much we can do. We have a clerk who goes to the master's office every single day. There's only so much he can do. If they chase him away, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do, right? So it's very, very important that when you embark on this process, you know it's a lengthy one, and that you're going to need to have patience when we're doing our job. Because believe me, we are, but we can only do as much as the master's office allows us to do. Because once we submit the documents, we need to wait, right? Okay, so once the letters of executorship are issued, we can then proceed with administering the estate, and then we advertise the estate, and there's a couple of more steps that we need to do. That takes an additional 2 months to complete, 3 months maybe even, depending on how quickly the master responds to us. Because each step in the estate process, it's a submission to the master and a reply. It's the reply that takes long. That is what's happening. But I believe now the master's office is restructuring. I'm not just going to say bad things about them. They are currently restructuring as well. And with the you can make applications online now. So that system is being implemented. So we won't actually need to physically go into the master's office as well. So each thing is uploaded electronically, and they'll then peruse it that way. And also they are in the process of restructuring, meaning that there's a team now allocated to issuing letters of executorship or dealing with new applications only. So it is moving a little bit faster, but each thing does obviously take time. Okay, so that's it from me. I don't know if you guys have any questions. If you do, please do ask. Yes. Yes, ma'am?
Morning, my name is Moira. I just want to ask you if the property is under 250,000 rand, you said, then issue a LOA,
A letter of authority,
okay.
yes.
And then must get an attorney must get an insurance for the property.
No. So
So I just want clarity on that.
no problem. So what happens is if the estate's under 250,000, you won't actually need an attorney. You can just go to the master's office and they will help you fill out the forms there. You'll obviously take copies of all the documents I would normally request, like the death certificate, marriage certificate, and so forth. And then you submit the documents there and they will assist you with the whole process. So you don't actually need an attorney.
So you mentioned a insurance that the attorney takes out to cover.
Yes.
So is that the insurance is that on the property or is that
No. So it's an insurance for me.
for you?
Yes.
So who pays for the insurance?
So if the estate is over 250,000, you must get a lawyer involved. If there's a child involved, and even if it's over 250,000, the lawyer must be the executor or the representative. The estate will pay that insurance. If there is no money in the estate, the heirs must unfortunately pay in. Right? So the children of the deceased must pay in, or the surviving spouse must then pay in. It's an insurance premium. It's calculated on the value of the estate. So let's say the estate is like R1 million. You'll pay a premium for the year. So it will normally come to like about 1,000 rand or 2,000 rand for the year. It's a very, very low fee. But obviously, the bigger your estate, the more you're going to pay.
For a year?
You pay for the insurance for a year, yes. And we are then supposed to finish up that estate within that year.
Okay.
But sometimes it doesn't happen because the master's office takes long. Sometimes the estate goes on for a year or 2 years. Every year the insurance must get renewed and the deceased estate must pay. Okay. And if there's no money, then obviously the heirs will pay. So the children of the deceased or the husband.
Thank you.
Or the wife. You're welcome.
So just with regards to, okay, so I have 3 questions, right?
Okay.
One, you were talking about fees. So when we step into your office as a normal person, making use of your services, what is your fee structure from that point on?
Okay.
And is there payment plans? And then Number two, you mentioned don't go to CNA for a will, right? But then you also mentioned that you offer the free will services.
Yes.
So what determines a valid will versus a non-valid will if
Okay.
somebody just takes it out? And then number three, estate is maybe between 500 or more, no will, children and stepchildren, but there's a Sharia law. How do you go about that?
Okay. So just remind me, what was your first question?
Your fees.
Okay, so fees. So when you come see an attorney to do a will, normally they won't charge for the will, right? So we normally take 30 minutes of our day. It's not that much. And we will draft your will for free and we'll give you the will once we're done. If it's an estate process, it's a little bit different. So if your estate's over 250,000 Rand, the administration fee is 3.5% of the value of the estate. Okay, so if your estate is worth R1,000,000, 3.5% will be 35,000 Rand. If there's no life policies to pay for that, your children are going to have to pay for that. They're going to have to come up with the money. If there's a property in that estate and the property needs to go to the children, there's going to be transfer fees as well from transferring the property to the children. And if there's no life, the master's office charges us a fee also based on the sliding scale and the value of the estate. It's anywhere between, say, 450 Rand, and the maximum fee is 7,000 Rand that they can charge based on the value. And then there's also some advertisement costs as well, which is probably not more than, say, another 2,000 Rand. So you're looking at almost 50 to 70,000 Rand if you have a property, if it's over R1,000,000, and you need to wind up that estate. So you need to chat to Chantal about making sure that there's enough policies in your estate to cover for that cost once you pass away. Because once there's a life policy and you pass away, the life policy will pay out to the estate, and that will basically cover all of the costs that you incur. We do normally permit our clients to pay it off if it's an estate because it's a long process. It's not going to happen overnight. So in that sense, we do allow our clients to pay it off, and we do come to some kind of payment arrangement, and we also not accounts to our clients as well. Okay, so we can do that. And then you had a third question.
Regards to if there is no will,
Okay,
there's children, stepchildren,
okay,
property roughly 500 and more.
okay.
So they're just working according to the Sharia law, but obviously some participants are not happy with that.
Okay.
How do you work that with the law?
Okay, so if you are Muslim or you've got Muslim family members and they've passed away and there's no will, the law will trump what Sharia says, unfortunately. Sharia is the Islamic law of succession or the Islamic laws. The law will trump that. From a religious perspective, what the children should, however, do is to make it easier on the deceased, because we obviously believe there's life after death. To make it easier, they must be Sharia compliant. Okay, an agreement where they rearrange, they basically deviate from what the law says. So they say, yes, the law says this, but we want it to go like this. Okay. Okay. So what we look for when we look at a will, there are requirements in terms of the Wills Act that a will must comply with. For example, if a will is signed with a fingerprint or an X, because the person couldn't write, there must be a commission of oaths present. If there's no commission of oaths present, that will's invalid automatically, right? An executor cannot write the will of the deceased, right? Because anyone who receives a benefit under the will cannot inherit. Anyone who receives a benefit cannot assist with writing of the will, because it looks like you forced this person to make this will, right? So if you're receiving a benefit, and that includes being the executor, being an executor is considered a benefit, or you're inheriting, you cannot have handwritten anything on that will. You couldn't have assisted ma and pa. You can't even sit in that consultation if you're bringing your parents with me and they say they want you to be the executor, then I send them out. Right? Because I don't want your parents to feel under pressure that they must do something or give the house to one child and then there's five other kids. So then I'll send you. So it's these wills. That's why I say don't go buy a will at CNA, is because when you handwrite that portions of your will, And I've had an estate where someone hand wrote the portions of the will, and before the person passed away, all the children fell out. And when you handwrite in the will, the master will ask who wrote that in the will, because they want to know if it was the executor who wrote it, right? And the children had fallen out with each other, and the person who wrote the will, when we phoned her, she said, "Moenie van my phone nie." She went on and on, right? So they will ask who wrote it, because that person who wrote it must then depose an affidavit with me to say that they wrote it in the will, right? So it's an additional task. That's why I say don't do it. Rather come see us to do a will. There's a number of legal requirements that must be complied with in order for a will to be declared valid. And if you're doing it with a fingerprint or with an X because your hands may be sore, then there's also additional requirements. The Commissioner of Oaths must be present. They must sign it on each page. The requirements are even stricter. Okay? So it's a number of things, but I don't want to bore everyone with the wills. You're welcome.
Okay. Elizabeth Stoffels, she asked me to pose a question.
Okay.
Her mom passed away 10 years ago, left the will to her with in the clause on the will that she looks after her brother. He has since passed away.
Okay.
The executor of the will, he's her other brother, and that's 10 years ago. He hasn't done anything. She's gone to the masters. The master says there's nothing they can do. He's the one that must wind up the estate or do the process. He lives in Johannesburg. He's done nothing. He doesn't take calls. What does she do now?
Okay. So here's why you need to check in with your family members why if they want to be the executor. That is a very good example of that. Because now, unfortunately, ma'am, the master is going to tell you they can do nothing because they can do nothing. You will have to launch a court application to remove him as the executor. And that is a high court application. So it's attorney's fees, it's advocate's fees as well. And normally advocates charge a day fee, which is anywhere between 10 to 30,000 Rand. And then also the attorney's fees for drafting. So you can only remove an executor by court order. Other than that, or you have to get a court order to say that they must do what they're supposed to do, which is a waste of time because even if there's a court order, people don't abide by the court order. So you will unfortunately have to get a court order, ma'am, to remove him as the executor. No. Yes, so you can come see me, ma'am, and we can potentially get an advocate to come to the consultation. Okay, so we can do that for you. And then we can sit down and we can chat about how we can have him removed as executor as well. You're welcome, ma'am. No problem.
Hi, morning. Yeah.
Oh, hi.
The lady asked one of my questions, but I just want to clarify again. We are lucky enough that it is 2.5 years and the will is with the bank.
Okay.
So now they've come after 2.5 years, given a amount that must be paid, which is in excess of 150,000, and they want it by the end of the month, or they will resign and we must pay the fees. Is that possible? Like, obviously we can't come up with that amount in such a short time.
Okay.
Can they actually say that?
They can. Because they've in their opinion, what you could do is you can actually ask them to give you proof that they've worked on the matter, right? Because a file can't sit for 2.5 years and only now you're starting the work, because then they would have done all that work. And then what? Was there no life policies that the deceased
There was
had?
a policy, but I don't think it was a life policy because it paid out shortly after he died as my dad.
Okay, and who did it
So
pay out?
to my stepmother.
Okay.
So I know she's received that money already, so I don't think it's the same.
Yeah.
think
So
that was
look,
a few in
if
the
he's nominated her under the policy, it will bypass the estate. It will get paid directly to her. They are unfortunately entitled to resign if you can't come up with their costs. But I would ask them, like, did you work on the matter and now you're billing me? Or are you starting to work on the matter? Because if they're going to resign and they haven't worked on the matter, then you're not liable for anything.
According to them, they've worked on it. Obviously, everything was slow, but then
Yeah.
we had to submit the rates, and we've
Then you
submitted stuff in those 2
Okay.
years. So according to them, they
Then
have
you can
worked
ask
on
them
it.
for proof that they've worked on the matter.
But my question is just that 30 days is a legal or
They
whatever.
are, they are allowed to demand their costs within X amount of time.
And
Because
then-
I think what they're looking at is you've had 2 years to save. Why can't you come up with the money? That's how people look at it.
Okay.
So rather just they unfortunately in terms of the law they can give you a set amount of time, and if you don't give them the cost within a period of time, then they can resign from the estate. Then you're going to sit with wasted costs for the work that they have done, and then you're going to have to instruct someone else to do it, and you're going to sit with costs again.
And start over again.
Correct, yeah.
But so we just have to ask them for a payment option or something like that.
You can try and ask them for a payment arrangement or even a discount on the fee.
And if we don't come up with the money, what do we do then?
Just maybe
The
ask them if there's
property.
an extension. So you'll ask them, look, we can't come up with it. We want to pay the cost. We can't come up with the cost in that period of time. Can we get an extension on the cost?
Thank you.
Okay, I think that lady had a question over there. That one there.
Jammer dame, ek is Afrikaans. Ek praat on behalf of my friend. Sy is die ene wat ek gaan altyd saam masters toe en sulke goed is. Wat ek graag wil weet is, haar moeder is dood, haar moeder het haar wil gelos.
Okay.
Maar in die tyd toe wat haar ma nog gelewe het, toe kom haar suster en haar suster vanaf sy nie iets kan opsit agter op haar plekkie. Op die ma se plekkie. Toe haar ma sterf, het haar ma wil gelos vir haar. Die huis is hare. Sy het lang gesukkel om die huis te kry. Eventually is het nou hare.
Okay.
Die vrou daarachter, die suster daarachter het gesterwe met man en al. Nou is die kinders achter. Is haar plek, die kinders wil nie betaal nie, die kinders wil nie weg nie. On top of it, die kinders een huis gaat koop. Hulle bly in, maar hulle hier die huis uit. Sy het nergens, sy kry nie inkomste, sy het 'n pensioen en sy weet nie wat om te doen nie. So die meer feit wat ek wil vra is, wat kan sy maak om hulle uit te kry of wat moet sy maak? Na u toe kom, baie dankie Osal.
Asseblief kom sien vir my. It's fine, ma'am. Come see me. I'll give you a business card after, and then you can come to my office, okay? All right, you're welcome.
It's just a question about the length of time, in the sense like we're busy with the process. My father died in 2021, so it's been 3 years.
Okay.
So with the attorneys involved, sometimes you as just a person feel like you don't know what's the actual process. You don't know, you don't have the knowledge. And I thank you also for the session, but I wish I had it before my father passed away.
Yeah.
Because now you've explained up to the part where the executorship letter we've received, it was sent to the master's court. They've had a request and the attorneys then asked us for more information or another document to sign. But we're ending in a 3rd year and it's like, what is actually, where's the hold up, man? Because sometimes if you ask the attorneys, they don't give you the information that you need. No one is explaining the process. Just for you to follow where you are at the stage, etc. So just, is there time or what is the actual problem?
Okay, so there isn't a maximum time for winding up a deceased estate, right? And the reason why it's structured like that is because unfortunately the master's office takes its time to reply. That's where we get stuck. So once the letters of executorship have been issued, we must then, within 6 months from the getting that letter, we must draw up the liquidation and distribution account, okay? That liquidation and distribution account is basically a statement of all the assets, so property, money, whatever, and then we take off the liabilities from the estate, which is the estate fees and all of those things, right? Once the account is then drawn up, we must then advertise the estate for a period of 30 days in a newspaper, and we must then also call for any creditors or debtors in the estate. So whoever owed the deceased money, you need to come forward, and if the deceased owed you money, you need to come forward, right? We then have a period of 30 days to either accept or reject that claim, right? So if maybe someone comes out of the woodwork, they say they loaned the deceased 20,000 rand during their lifetime, I'm going to ask for proof. Where's the proof that you loan this money because I can't just accept the claim willy-nilly, right? If no one comes in at 30 days, we then submit that to the master's office and we say, here's our calculations, let us know if you agree, because if you agree, then we can advertise again. Then we do a second advertisement. Once they come back and they say, our calculations are fine, they agree, we do a second advertisement and we tell the world basically in the newspaper that this is our calculations. If you have any objections, you can come forward. If we don't get any objections in that 30 days, then we pay out to the heirs. It is not uncommon for estates to take as long as yours is taking. It is shocking though, because I'm trying to wrap my head around the fact as to where in that process that they are stuck. Sometimes what happens is we submit the account and then the accounts get lost in the master's office, or they don't reply, or it's sitting on someone's desk. What you could perhaps do is you could maybe go into the master's office if you've got an estate number, and then you can maybe ask who's dealing with this estate. Then you actually go see the person and you say, what has been done here? They will then be able to tell you what is going on in that estate if your attorney is not giving you enough answers.
Thank you. And
Okay.
just one more question.
Sure.
If you have a certain group of attorneys and at some stage you wanted to change, is that an option, or are you just going to pay twice?
Okay, so it is an option, right? So you can change attorneys, but before you do that, I always recommend that my clients ask the current attorney how much work they've done on that estate, because the attorney is entitled to charge wasted costs. So if that attorney worked up to the point of getting letters of executorship, they're entitled to a certain percentage of the fee and then everything after that. So let's assume you came to me, they got the letters of executorship and now they're taking long. Then you can, but then I'll have to speak to my colleague. We don't like to do that to our colleagues, I must tell you. I will rather send you to go ask how much they're going to charge you for getting the letters of executorship. And if you're happy with that and there's sufficient money in the estate, you can then move the estate over and we can then. It is an option, but just find out how much work that they've done so far. And if so, ask them, maybe scare them a little, say, what is your wasted cost? You're considering moving it to another attorney? Because we always worry that another attorney is going to check us, you know what I mean? So we rather do that and then see what they say, and then you take that information, you go to the master's office and you find out. Just make sure that you go early in the morning, like at 6 o'clock, so that you can get first in line to go speak to someone. Okay.
I've got a question.
Yes.
8 years ago, my husband passed on,
Right.
and we had an attorney that did our affairs, but he did nothing. For
Okay.
6 years of that 8 years, nothing was done.
Okay.
We went backwards and forwards to him, and every time there's another story and a story and a story, and at the end of the day, we asked to work on paper trails so that we can follow up on all the paperwork.
Okay.
So that was done, and then he got fed up of me because I'm pestering him all the time, because it's 8 years. So he stood off and he said, get yourself another attorney.
Okay.
And I did just that. Now this attorney, he never gave me my will back, and he can't find it and we don't know where it is. So this attorney that I have now, he said I must do a re-enunciation. Children stands off and put the property in my name, and then from there we'll make out another will to put it back onto them. I just want to know, is this right? Is this legal? I've got the paperwork to show what he told me.
Okay, ma'am.
And he got me as an executor of the
Okay.
property. So I'm the executor now.
Okay.
And I would like to know, how long does an executorship letter last?
So he sat with that for 8 years and he didn't get the letters of executorship.
No, he was the executor at that
Okay,
time.
and he still didn't get the letter of executorship.
No, exactly.
Oh, okay, I'm so sorry.
He's off now. I've got
Okay.
another attorney working. Now that attorney wants my children to sign everything over onto my name. I've
Okay.
got 2 signs. The third one won't sign. What
Okay.
am I to do in a case like this?
Okay, are you okay with me answering in front of everybody, or do you want to come see me afterwards?
Okay, I'll see you
Okay,
afterwards.
cool.
Just to
Okay.
save time.
Okay, no problem, that's fine.
you. Good afternoon. My name is Ronal. Um, I've got a I've got a question. Um, my husband passed away about, okay, this year it will be 2 years. So he didn't have, no, I can't say he didn't have an estate. There's no fixed property. There's no property. But I only found out after his passing because then I started receiving phone calls from debtors to say that he hasn't paid for so many months and he hasn't paid for so many months. And I wasn't aware that he had these debts because my husband, where his finances was concerned, he was raised that jou vrou hoef nie te weet van jou geld en dinge nie. So as I had to tell the people, look, the man passed away and that's that. I didn't even know that he had these accounts. So some of them asked me to fax them, email them the death certificate, which I did. But now last week I received a call from attorneys. They phoned me from Durban, and it was with regards to 2 accounts. And then she said to me that I need to go to, and I said to her that he passed away. I wasn't aware because now it's another 2 accounts that comes out of the woodwork. And then she said that I need to go to the masters and get a letter to say that he's got nothing in his estate, that his estate is like, I don't know if liquidated is the right term. But anyway, so my question that I have is, I've seen those forms, and I mean, I'm good at filling in forms, but that forms just blows me into a next dimension.
Okay.
The question that I want to know is now, because when we get married, we all get married into a community of property. Am I now going to be held liable for those debts that I was not even aware of 2 years after he passed? Because, I mean, seriously, I can't even afford that at this point in time. So what am I supposed to do now with regards to that? Because I cannot afford another attorney because, and I don't want to scare people, but my stepfather passed away. This will be now the 3rd year. And then my mom, because she's elderly, we went, the bank recommended this lawyers. We went to the lawyers, and then because I'm the eldest, I was told, okay, so they're appointing me as the executor, not knowing what is happening. I just agreed, right? And then they did whatever they had to do. We only found out from the bank that there was still, my stepfather took out a second bond or something. So there was still money owed on the bond, but there was a life insurance that he had with the bank. So the bank now, they didn't tell us how much the life insurance was. They didn't tell us how much was owed. So they said they will just deduct what is owed, and the balance they will pay out to us. So they said to us afterwards, there's like 57,000 rand. And then we thought, okay, we're going to use that for the transferred on my mom's name. And then they transferred the money to the attorneys, only to find out they only transferred 30,000. So we questioned, what about the 27,000? They said, no, that was in administration cost. So that is where the full stop was. So now in December, the attorneys contacted me and they said to me, there's a shortfall of 22,000. I'm just rounding it off to 22,000. And when am I going to pay that? Because they've done now everything. And also, just to warn you guys, you have to pay the rates up for 3 months in advance, which I did. Then the bank lost the deed of sale. They reapplied for the deed of sale, but there was no cost to us. But then I had to pay again the rates in advance for 3 months. So now the bank contacted me in December to say there's a shortfall of 22,000 and when can they get their money? So I gave them now January 10,000, and then I said to them, look, I can only pay off the rest. And they said they only allow me 6 months. So now the end of January I had to pay 2,000 to pay off this money. So I cannot afford now to have now another attorney where I now need to give money and whatever. So what do I do? How do I go about this? Because I also can't allow these people now to blacklist me because of a debt that is not mine.
Yeah. Look, there's a number of issues involved. With regards to your marriage in community of property, it is very unfortunate that our people are still getting married in community of property. And I think it's because there's not enough information of how to get married outside of community of property. Okay. If you are married in community of property and your spouse passes away and there is not enough money in the estate, unfortunately, you as the surviving spouse, it's a joint estate, it's seen as one, right? Unfortunately, you are going to be held liable for that debt, so that debts will carry through into the estate. What you could potentially do is you can actually go to the master's office and apply for the letter of authority. You're welcome to come to my office. I'll assist you with the forms and what you need to submit. Because it sounds like the estate's actually insolvent, meaning that the liabilities or the debts of the estate is more than what is actually in the estate, the income, right, or the assets. So it is unfortunate that if you're married in community of property, your estate is seen as one, and unfortunately you are going to be held liable for those debts, even though he has passed away, right? Okay. Um, so to those, if you are gonna get married, please come see me so we can do what you call, you see it in the movies, it's a prenup. We call it the anti-nuptial here in South Africa. Please come see me before you get married, when you are engaged. Yes, your partner might get a little bit upset. Don't you trust me? But along the lines, you don't evolve into. I've had people who come see me, they're married in community of property. The husband ended up being a gambler. And you know what happens when you gamble. It goes from a little bit to a lot. It goes from the car to the house, right? And you don't know who he's gambling with. You can be gambling with a big gangster. Tomorrow they can put you out of the house, right? So come see me if you can, before you get married, regardless of your age. Come see me, and we will do an anti-nuptial contract for you, so we can make sure that you get married out of community of property. Because once you're in community of property, you can change it, but it's very costly. I changed the matrimonial property system for a couple probably in 2019, and it's a high court process, so it's very expensive. And at that point, it was 16,000 Rand to split the estate up in two. And the more stuff you have in the estate, the more work needs to get done, because now we need to sit you down, you need to agree who's going to take what, how's the estate going to get split up. So before you get married, regardless of whether your spouse gets upset or not, or your fiance, rather come see me. We'll just do an anti-nuptial contract so you're both protected, because if he goes into debt review, you go into debt review. If she goes into debt counseling, you go into debt counseling automatically. So sometimes Carmen will also phone me and she'll say, this person wants to buy a house, but the husband went under debt review. My first question is, are they married in community of property? Because then it doesn't matter who went into debt review, it binds the both of you. If he's insolvent, you are insolvent. Right? So if he owns businesses and maybe he's a sole proprietor, it's not a formal company, if he's insolvent, you're also going to be insolvent. Okay, so come see me for an anti-nuptial. It just, by costing, it costs about 2,000 Rand to do an anti-nuptial. It can go up depending on how complex your estate is, but if it's simple, it's 2,000 Rand plus a deeds office fee. So it's nothing more than 2,500 Rand to set up, to protect you for the rest of your life. Okay, and then ma'am, with regards to the other part of the estate, it's probably better that you come see me after. Okay, because sometimes if it's personal things and it's amounts and things, I don't like to discuss it in a concert here on this platform. So rather come see me afterwards and then I can guide you. Okay, okay. Are we okay on time?
Sure.
Okay, that's fine.
So we're going to do one more question. Yeah, on this one.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. Ms. Ismail, thank you so much for being here this morning. It's absolutely informative, and I really wish that more of our people could have been here. I think one of the problems that we sit with in our community, and I'm dealing strictly with Retreat, Steenberg, Lavender Hill, sometimes Heathfield as well, is that you have a lot of people that say to the children, I'm going to leave you my house, it's yours. And that's all they leave them, it's the house.
Yeah.
And then the kids don't have any means of paying any costs of having the house transferred onto their names. Is there any policy that parents or owners can take out that when they pass away will be able to cover those costs when it comes to you as far as the transfer of the house is concerned?
Okay, so yes, there is, we'll start for the life cover. That's normal. If you have a life cover, it will pay into the estate. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to Chantal because she is actually the financial advisor. So she'll advise you what instruments you need to have in order to make sure that your heirs don't end up having to sell the house in order to make sure that there's money, right? Or if there's like debts in the estate, like a bond, that property probably going to have to get sold in order to make sure there's enough money. So I'm going to hand over to Chantal, sir, and she'll then be what instruments you're going to need in order to make sure there's enough money.
Okay, before we hand over, thank you very much, Muksina. We're going to give away 2 more prizes, but Muksina needs to ask 2 questions to see who was listening.
When an estate is under 250,000, what is the name of the letter that you need to get? Yes. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much. One more before we go to Chantal.
Where is the place or what is the government body called where we report deceased estates?
Okay, one more.
Okay, let's do it again and whoever puts their hand up first, that's the winner. So what is the government place called where you report?
Hand goes up first.
Ooh.
This lady here, right?
Yes? Perfect, thank you.
This gift is from Reynolds Strength Council Services. Thank you very much. So Chantal Roberts is from Trinity Financial Planning, and she's going to give us some information. And Pastor's question really just was a key question to introduce her and what she's going to share about with us. So we've heard everybody speaking about all the costs and sitting with these big bills and trying to make payment arrangements and how are they going to pay it. Chantal is going to provide some tools and some insurance policies that will help you plan for those costs.
Thank you, Carmen. Morning, everybody. I'm Chantal Roberts. Thank you for your time. Thank you to Carmen. Thank you to Pastor. CCFM for I'm a wife, born and bred. So we started out in Mitchell's Plain. My dad was an undertaker. He's the late Chris Roberts Undertakers. And we were in the community and we saw exactly what the people actually needed when somebody passes on. They don't have funeral policies. They just don't know where to go. Somebody passes on at home or at the hospital. And this was started in 1986. My mom then saw there was a need for burial insurance, and so she started up with the insurance part. So that is where Chris Roberts Undertakers comes in. We do the funeral, but we also need to provide a solution where the cost is concerned. From there, I did not choose this industry. This industry chose me. I don't want anything to do with the dead people, but here I am. So I know that this is God's plan. little bit forward, I started working at, I'm not sure if people are in Westgate Mall, that's where I started, in the client service department, and then I worked in Edgar's, and then I started at the law firm, and I thought, this is where I want to be, in Muxina's field, and the transfers and the bonds, not knowing that this is the place where God started my career. And my dad got ill and he said, not interested. Then he obviously, as I say, fell ill and I took over the business. And, you know, God has just elevated the fact that we have seen the need in the community, not only funeral policies, not only arranging a funeral or a cremation, but the fact that when people pass on, they say, you know, I have a house, or my mom's got a house, or I don't have money to wind up the estate like with Muxina. You know, God just opened up a door where somebody came and said, I will train you to be a financial advisor. And I'm thinking, really, Lord? Why? You know, I don't understand this whole financial advisor industry. But anyway, long story short, I am now here where I am by God's grace 20 years later. And my thing was more of talking about the policies. We need to know what you are paying for, what your premium is. Are you going to be paying out still at the end of the day when the funeral takes place? Must I still pay for an extra family car? Must I still pay for a bus? Must I still pay for the grave? You know, all those extra costs. And that is where I come in and I will say, this is your solution to your problem with a funeral or a cremation is concerned. Now I'm going to come back to Pastor's question with regard to the walls as well, just to the parents. Please, parents, about what is in a lot of people are very private, especially the older folks. It's maybe sagge. You know, you don't talk to me. I see it's got nothing to do with you. Ek het gewerk vir die huis. You know, ek en jou pa het sweat and blah blah blah. Please, I'm asking you, you are causing a rift in the family if you do not sit and discuss this very important, pertinent things. It's not a nice conversation to have, but it's one that is needed at least once a year. You know, just to review. With Muxina, you can review your will as well and say there is changes. A lot of people are also emotional. Ek praat eens met die kind Diane, so it's uit my will. You know, so, and then next year, this one got married and et cetera, et cetera. So there is a policy to help assist with the winding up of the estate fees. I will normally suggest if there is beneficiaries to the estate, let the beneficiaries pay that policy. Just for an example, a senior that's got a house, there's no bond to the house, you can then look at something like 165 Rand per month, and that will cover 90% of your cost for your winding up of the estate. That can be split between the children if the house is going to go to the children, or vice versa. If the husband and the wife are still alive, event where the husband and wife pass on together, that policy will then be paid by the children. So, you know, give them that responsibility as well to say, listen, here is, you know, here's an asset, but in the event of my passing, I think that you can take that responsibility and just, you know, pay for the benefit that you're going to get. And then we're also looking at, if you do have a bond, you're going to need life cover. You don't want to leave your family destitute. You know, you've seen so many people that they have to sell their house in order to pay for debt that is outstanding. And it's very sad because, you know, our parents and us, we work hard for what we have, and just to, unfortunately, sell whatever we have to cover the cost at the end of the day. The life cover is, and it's not expensive. A lot of people think life cover, oh my goodness, jy moet baie geld. It's not expensive. You come and see me and you say, Chantal, I can only afford conversation. What is in your estate? What is your house worth? What is your car's worth? Do you have any other policies? Even when I'm thinking of with the children as well. So with a trust, you can correct me if I'm wrong, when you have a will and you have a trust and you pass on and this trust must run, it's going to run on money. It's going to cost you. So you're going to have money to run the trust. Am I correct? Yeah. So those are all things that you have to think of. And I know it's a lot of information. It's information overload this morning. But it's little things, little conversations that we can go home and think about, mull over. We've got that cards and we've got the conversations right now that can be had. Also with your critical illness and your dreaded disabilities, those are all solutions, and it's not impossible to have. Once you have, you have your funeral policy, which is your basic. And then you look at your will, which is extremely important. Then we will say, okay, do you need life cover? Do you need critical illness? If you are working, should you fall ill today, or should you become disabled today, will you be able to manage without your salary? Is your income protected? So those are all the little conversations that makes a massive difference at the end of the day. We also, as you can see, this is all my offerings, and we do savings plans as well. So if you feel, listen, I don't, you know what I see a lot in today's time? There's, matric balls and proms. Oh, we go out of our way. It's beautiful. We celebrate our children. But then I come to the aunt and I say, do you have a savings plan for that baby? Do you have a savings plan? Beautiful matric. I've said, beautiful. I promise you. And they put themselves into debt. But where is that savings plan? And we can start with 100 Rand a month. It doesn't have to be 5, 6, 7, 800 Rand, 1,000. It's just a little bit. Even your retirement. When I think of the kids that starts working, mommy and daddy buy them a beautiful car, 80 bucks, a beautiful, fast Michael Knight, do you have insurance on the car? You know that you need to have insurance on the car. But when the child starts working, you have to think ahead and think, do I want my child to go and stand in the SASSA line when they retire one day? Or can we actually start on a retirement plan? For his 21st gift, I'm going to start you on a retirement plan. And it starts at 250 Rand. Something simple like that, but it will make a massive impact for our kids, for our generations to come. We think of what we've had and we think of what we can give them. We always think of where we come from. We haven't all this information. We maybe not have had all this information when we were growing up, when we were younger. Finances was not discussed with us. Budgeting was not discussed with us. Teaching our children how to be responsible with money, even with inheritance. They inherit, imagine a 21-year-old inherit R1 million. What do you think is going to happen? So you need that type of guidance as well. So we will be available to you where wills is concerned. And then also if you want to buy a house, you would need life cover. So you'll buy a house from Carmen, of course, and then you'll get the life cover from me and Muhsina will do your will for you. But that is literally just me in a nutshell. And if there is any questions, you are more than welcome to ask. We're also at the table as well with regards to insurance, with regards to savings, with regards to, I wanted to speak about life. I didn't want to speak about death. That is Muhsina's department. Life in abundance. I'm not going to come as an undertaker. But yes, so that is my short story for today. And like I said, if there's any questions, please feel welcome to join us at the table at the back there. Plate flate, Mr. Wariazite. Thank you. Muhsina?
Okay. So we've thank you, Chantal, for that. If you need some more detailed information, like she said, they will be available at the back. So we will have time from 12 o'clock until 1 o'clock for any questions for Chantal or Muhsina, or even for Meraki if it's around property. I do also want to invite everybody. Next week, we will be at the Riverword Church in Southfield. The topic we're going to be speaking about next week is also on financial planning, but we're going to look at if you are thinking about renting a property, how do you qualify to be a good tenant? What do we as agents look at when we do tenant vetting? We will also look at if you are looking to buy a property, what costs are involved for a purchaser, and also how do the banks look at your credit profile when you are looking to purchase for the property. And then Muhsina will also be covering about housing subsidies, how to qualify for a housing subsidy and what steps to take when applying for a housing subsidy, because she deals with that on a regular basis. At next week's event, we will have the 4 main banks there: ABSA, Standard Bank, Nedbank, and FNB, as well as SA Home Loans as well. So the Meraki team will be available to assist you, and then also the banks will be available if anybody wants to do any pre-qualifications to see what they qualify to purchase property, and we will do pre-qualifications to see what rental you can qualify if you are looking to rent. And if you perhaps have a property and you are thinking of renting it out or a separate entrance, then it will also be good for you to attend as well. Okay. So are there any questions before we close off? It's 3 Alva Road, South. So the bookings is also via Quicket. We've got some brochures there in front and on the table. The booking process is the same. If you struggle with booking, you can just also let one of the team know and they will be able to book for you. Okay. Is it? There's still time. It's never too late. Sure.
Okay. A good question. So a burial insurance and a funeral or monetary policy. There's not much difference, okay? The only difference is when you actually say, I want to take out the burial insurance with a specific undertaker. This is my burial insurance. What you can do is you don't necessarily have to have a burial insurance with a specific undertaker. You can just have your monetary policy for funeral costs. So just for instance, a Metropolitan or Old Mutual or a Liberty, Hollard, you have a funeral policy with them. I'm just saying that pays out 50,000 Rand. Here you can actually use that 50,000 Rand. You pay your undertaker's fees, you pay your clothing fees, pay your food fees, pay what the bills for electricity, you know, those type of things, people that come from up country, come and stay with us for the week. So you don't necessarily have to have 2 separate policies. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Before you go, we've got a few prizes here that was donated by Trinity Financial Services. So we've got 4 questions. Oh.
Thank you. So the final expense covers is exactly that, final. That would be like I just explained to the lady now as well, that would be your excess after the funeral or while you're busy arranging the funeral. Also your final expenses for your winding up of your estate as well. So those are the final expenses that we do.
Okay, so the question is, can somebody name one of the services that MI attorneys offer? Okay, that Lindsay. MI attorneys. There was a hand that said, yes. Okay, she answered first. Sorry, her hand was up first. I'm not so good with the hands. I can't. Okay, so can someone name, hang down, one of the services that Meraki Property Solutions offer? Correct. My first client. Her son was my very first client when I opened up my business. No? And when your clients call you auntie, then you must worry. Okay. So now can someone name one of the services that CCFM offers? Yes? That's so good. We'll accept that. We'll accept that. Love it. Okay. So last one, it's not a packet of cigarettes, eh? I mean, it looks like it. So what are one of the services there? You must watch. Trinity Financial Planning Office. There we go. Okay, so that rounds up today's session. Thank you for everybody for attending. Thank you once again to Pastor Mark and the Church Council for opening up the venue to us. Thank you to all the exhibitors that came on board to support us. Please do stay behind. There's still coffee and biscuits. And please do make time to chat with the vendors. The venue will be open until 1 o'clock. Thank you.